Do you think that the lieutenant governor was operating outside of the purview of Governor Walz?
So it's interesting, the timing, and it was before he ran as the vice president, and so she was completely almost tied at the hip with Governor Walz at that time in history.
Guys, you are not gonna believe the absolute beatdown that just went down in the House Oversight Committee. We had 3 of the biggest sanctuary state governors, Pritzker, Hochul, and Tim Walz, getting dragged, dismantled, and left speechless by Representative Byron Donalds. If you ever wanted to watch pure virtue signaling crash and burn against cold, hard reality, this is it. These governors are burning billions of your tax dollars on illegal immigration. And when Donalds hits them with simple, straightforward questions, crickets, zero answers, total deer in headlights panic. But wait till you see the finale. Tim Walz gets caught trying to defend calling American law enforcement the Gestapo. It is straight up humiliating. Let's dive in.
Before we begin, I have a letter to submit for the record titled Collective Request for Congressional Oversight, Systematic Retaliation and Governance Failure at the Minnesota Department of Human Services. Chairman, this letter was written by the whistleblowers and has been provided to the committee. I want to submit that for the record.
Without objection, so ordered.
Ms. Rarick, first of all, thank you for your service to the state of Minnesota. I want to refer back to your commentary about a meeting where the Lieutenant Governor of the state of Minnesota, Lieutenant Governor Flanagan, came and admonished these whistleblowers. Can you go into more detail about what was said in this meeting?
Thank you, Mr. Congressman. So I don't have any more detail other than what I read into the record. Unfortunately, it was obviously a public meeting, and there were hundreds of DHS employees, so Department of Human Services employees there. It was a story that's been reported multiple times on the X page, but I don't have any more details than that, other than the fact that that wasn't the only time that she retaliated.
Do you think that the Lieutenant Governor was operating outside of the purview of Governor Walz?
So it's interesting, the timing, and it was before he ran as the vice president, and so she was completely almost tied at the hip with Governor Walz at that time in history.
I think it's important for people to understand that in virtually every state in the country, the lieutenant governor is essentially chosen by the governor. And so lieutenant governors typically do not operate outside of the purview of the governor. It's kind of their job to, play QB2, if you will, to the governor. So would it be clear to state that the lieutenant governor's comments trying to railroad whistleblowers, trying to demean whistleblowers and discourage whistleblowers was at the directive of Governor Walz?
You can definitely assume that because, like I said, at that moment in time, up until the point where the governor ran for VP, she was seen at literally every press conference. She was in all the meetings. They were tied at the hip. They were always together. So if she was saying it, he had approved it. I'm certain of it.
Well, I guess you could say she's kind of a knucklehead, too. Moving on, the list of programs in the fraud in Minnesota are rampant. You have the Child Care Assistance Program. You have the Feeding Our Future. You have the Housing Stabilization Services. You have the Early Intensive Development and Behavioral Intervention. You have Integrated Community Supports. Ms. Robbins, you're the chair of the investigative committee. The depth of fraud that you have seen, were there controls in place in the state of Minnesota that could have prevented this fraud? And were these controls ignored by the Walz administration and by the Department of Human Services?
Absolutely. So we have many whistleblower reports talking about how DHS undermined ability to strengthen internal controls. So, for example, there was an effort for the Child Care Assistance Program. They have a clear and convincing evidence standard to disqualify someone from being a provider, where all the other programs are a lower standard, preponderance of the evidence. There was an effort to make this a lower standard so it was easier to disqualify people to preponderance. And the Minnesota Minority Child Care Association, which was run by a group of Somali providers, opposed it, and DHS went along with their recommendation. And in a similar vein, we were trying to reduce the number of child care employees with children that could work in these child care centers, because that was one of the vectors of fraud,
right.
And they opposed that.
So you had the Somali community who on purpose was petitioning the state of Minnesota to lower the standards lower the standards to be able to make sure that fraud cannot be caught. Is that correct?
Well, they wanted to keep the standard clear and convincing, which makes it harder to disqualify people.
So it makes it harder for them to be disqualified from wasting taxpayer funds. Is that
absolutely
correct? Okay. Ms. Robbins, I want to stay with you. I want to talk about use of funds. You've talked about some of these funds were used to buy property in Kenya.
Yes, sir.
Property in Turkey. Do I have that correct?
Yes.
Remittances back to Somalia.
Yes.
I think it's important for the committee to understand that these remittances in part are used in what's called the Hawala. I want to make sure I have the terminology right. The Hawala network. Ms. Robbins, can you speak to what the Hawala network is?
Yes. So it's an informal network where someone goes to a Hawala place in Minneapolis, which is like a money exchange or a money sending site, and they say, I want to send X amount of dollars, and then there's a receiving site in Somalia, and they put take the cash out. So money doesn't cross the border. It's an order for money here that gets transmitted to Somalia.
For the time, because I'm out of time, I want to expound. In Somalia and other parts in the Middle East region writ large, a Hawala network is a bunch of money exchangers, hand to hand, not bank account to bank account.
Exactly.
And what is clear in Somalia and other parts is that Al-Shabaab, the largest Al-Qaeda affiliate in Somalia, they have their hands all through this network. So taxpayer money, United States dollars, that are being remitted into Somalia in parts have been utilized or have fell into the hands of Al-Shabaab. Do you think that's a correct assessment?
Yes, we have plenty of evidence of that, from money directly going to Al-Shabaab, but then also indirectly because they take a cut of whatever gets sent to Somalia.
Thank you so much, Chairman. I know I'm over. Thank you for the
Well,
additional
did you
time.
catch that dead silence at the end? That is the sound of complete and total defeat. Let's break this down because Byron Donalds just gave a masterclass in how to obliterate a narrative. First up, Governor Pritzker from Illinois. Notice the deflection right out of the gate. Donalds asks a basic financial question. How much are you spending? Pritzker goes, well, that's a federal problem. Excuse me? You're the governor. You're signing the checks. How the hell do you not know how much of your state's budget is going to non-citizens? Donalds nails him on the Medicaid scam. Pritzker claims they don't get Medicaid. But we all know states are funneling massive health benefits to undocumented migrants under different names. Playing dumb isn't a strategy, it's an admission that he's lost control of his own checkbook. Then we hit New York, and Kathy Hochul. This was beautiful. She's begging the feds for $4 billion to fix Penn Station infrastructure that actual citizens use every single day, while simultaneously torching $4 billion on illegal immigration costs. Donald's point is crystal clear and undeniable. Prioritize your own damn citizens. Her response? She blames Trump. Classic Democrat playbook. When their policies crash and burn, it's always orange man bad. She's been in charge. Her party controlled the White House. Yet she's still whining about 1986 and Ronald Reagan. Give me a break. But the main event, the absolute disgrace of this entire hearing, was Tim Walz. Look at him, sitting there quiet, hoping Donalds forgets he's in the room. No chance. Donalds brings up the Gestapo comment. For anyone who missed it, Walz called ICE agents fellow Americans doing a dangerous job. A modern-day Gestapo. That's a Nazi comparison. It's vile, it's hateful, and it's disqualifying for anyone in public office. Watch Walz try to squirm out. I was taken out of context. Oh, I meant Trump was using them like the Gestapo. No, Governor, you don't get to wiggle out of this. You demonized American law enforcement officers to score cheap political points on Twitter. Donalds didn't let him breathe. He looked him dead in the eye and said, they are Americans. Do not diminish their work. That was the kill shot. Walz had nothing left. He just sat there looking down. Looking weak, because deep down he knows he's wrong. Byron Donalds just exposed the entire sanctuary state scam in 4 brutal minutes. These governors want the credit for being welcoming, but they want you to foot the bill, and they hate the law enforcement officers who actually try to keep us safe. Tell me in the comments, do you think Tim Walz owes ICE and the whole country an apology after that beatdown? Because I damn sure do. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more reality checks like this. See you in the next one. Stay locked in.